And there's this one waitress, her name is Crystal. She's a student at VCU. She knows how to practice hospitality. When I come in that restaurant, she is there. She knows what I want to drink. She brings me chips and salsa. And I told her the other day I was working on this sermon about hospitality. And I said, I'd really like to know your thoughts. Why do you think we should practice hospitality? Well, here's her response. I think we need to rely on each other in this difficult world. Some people think just saying hi and bye is practicing hospitality. Real hospitality is when we allow other people in our lives. Wow. Our theology is only as good as our relationships. And she nailed it. When we make room inside of ourselves for another person, it becomes an act of hospitality. In the 5th century, there was a man named Benedict of Nursia who helped create the whole monastery movement. He said, humility and hospitality are shown to all guests who come here, regardless of their station in life. We try to recognize the Christ in each guest or visitor. Did I see Christ in the people I met today? That's a good question. At the end of the day, did people see Christ in you? I love what Henry Nouwen says about hospitality. Hospitality, he describes as a space around us that we create for others in which they can come, be themselves, and discover who they are. What a great gift to have somebody approachable that you can come and be who you are. There's a great story, an ancient story, about a monastery where all the monks were old and tired and waiting to die. They had lost their enthusiasm for serving Christ and had ceased to care about their fellow brothers. You may know some churches like this. Although they shared the same living space, prayed together, ate together, and worked together, each monk lived in his own world and only focused on himself. No one came to the monastery. There were no visitors, no new brothers. The buildings were in deep need of repair, but the monks didn't care. They felt that it wouldn't be long until there would be no monastery at all, and that everything would return to dust. And then one day, a holy man visited them. He was a monk himself. And for a time he lived with the old brothers, prayed with them, talked with them, worked, ate, and slept with them. He was a wise man. The brothers turned their hearts and minds outward and listened to him. One day, when it came time for him to leave, this holy man stood before the brothers who were bidding him farewell and wished him God's peace. Some of the monks shook their heads very sadly. There's nothing here for us now that you're going, they thought. But the visitor's last words to them were, there is one among you who is Christ. And then he walked away. Well, the brothers were quite astonished. They looked at one another with surprise. Surely he's not talking about Brother William over there, who never arrives at chapel on time, never does his work either. And surely he's not talking about Brother Mark over there, who annoyingly slurps his soup at lunch every time. And surely it's not the abbot. He's not a very happy person. He's always gruff with everyone. Christ wouldn't be late for chapel, or neglect his work, or slurp his soup, or be gruff. Yet their visitor was a holy and reliable man who had spoken the truth to them the whole time he was in their company. So this too must be true. One among them must be the Christ. So each of the monks began to treat the other as if he were Christ, for they didn't know who it was. They started looking for ways to serve one another. Each one of the monks did his work as a gift to the Christ who was among them. Each honored his fellow monk by listening with full attention and respect. They began to overlook little things that annoyed them about one another and began instead to see the good that was in every person. Soon life began to flow back into that dying community. A joy and vitality was reborn that had been lost for many years. The people of the town nearby learned that something had changed at that monastery. In curiosity, they came, they were welcomed, they were loved, they were received. Each was made to feel at home, and every effort was taken to care for their needs and to love them. Men, women, and children came to be refreshed and renewed. The brotherhood grew as men came even from far away to join that community. All the visitors and the new brothers were treated as if they were Christ. For the wise monk had said, "One among you is Christ." You know, when I choose to look on another person as Christ, I don't change them. I can't change them. I change me. I can do nothing about who they are, but when I change my actions and my reactions, it's a paradox. Everyone changes too. When we practice hospitality the way Jesus practiced hospitality, the healing power of love flows out like the circles from a pebble dropped in a still pond. When we practice hospitality, you and I become transformed so that God can bless us and let us become good gifts to others. Can you imagine what the world would be like if no one practiced hospitality? Let me offer you some practical, helpful steps that will help all of us be people of hospitality so that God can do his transforming work within us. Here are some ways we can express hospitality to others. First, to be fully present to others, to be attentive. Second, to make room for others in our lives, to create space. Third, to set aside our own agendas and tend to the needs of others. Fourth, to look for the good in others instead of being consumed by their faults. Fifth, to forgive, to practice forgiveness. All of us need it. All of us need to practice it. And sixth, to see Christ in the faces of those we see every day. Let's practice hospitality. Our world needs it. May it be so.